Hello and welcome to episode 124 of Random Encounter, the RPG fan podcast. I'm your host, Pale Robbie, Rob Steinman, Pale Robbie. I'm so
Who are
tired.
you?
We're off to a good start.
I don't know! Alright, Robert Steinman, Pale Robbie on the boards.
Got it.
You'd think I'd never done this before.
No.
Joining me today, we have Derek Zelda Sucks Heemsbergen.
You know what? You can just shut the hell up. You can't just put your opinion on me.
I just want to put all the hate on you.
I think you're full of shit, but we'll talk about it.
I think you're my flame shield, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Then we also have Caitlin. Horizon is better than Zelda Argyros.
God damn, man.
Oh yeah, I'll totally. I will 100% own up to that moniker because yes, that is true.
Oh boy, here we go. And then Robert. It's okay. Fenner.
What can I say? It's all right by me.
But he's more than okay. He's fantastic.
Okay.
Oh,
well.
you.
Well, I meant his. I just was going for a
I
Zelda
know.
motif. So before we start talking about the games, obviously, we got some people that got the Switch, the Nintendo Switch, and I just want to talk about this piece of technology real quick because, you know, we saw it back when they first did the big reveal. I want to say that was back in January where they did like the huge reveal, the huge live stream where I was like losing my mind and the internet was giving a collective like, I know they impressive.
That still irritates me.
Yeah, and I'm like, you got a Xenoblade 2. What the hell do you guys have to complain about right
exactly.
now? Like,
But, you know, whatever.
like they could have just stopped there. So I get it, and I plug it in, and I'm really impressed with it as a piece of technology. Like, I've had some issues here and there that I'm hoping Nintendo can work on, or I might have to get another Switch at some point, because there might be hardware wireless problems. But overall, this thing does exactly what it's supposed to do. It turns into a handheld console very quickly. It is very comfortable to play on my 50-inch plasma screen. Also, major kudos to Nintendo for having a UI in Zelda that I can actually read. I'm enjoying that very much, like the Final Fantasy 15 UI where I have to like get up and walk to the TV and start like reading this small ass text. I really appreciate that in Zelda. But it really does what it's supposed to do, and it feels like I'm holding a premium product. I think that's the thing that I can't get over. Like, this thing does not feel cheap at all.
I agree.
And it's not.
No. But like the Wii U kind of feels like a toy.
Yeah, the gamepad.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Just design-wise, I think the Switch feels a lot more stable, solid, sort of like, it's more future tech. I mean, it includes more future tech, but yeah.
Are you guys having trouble with the Joy-Cons on the Switch? Like, I find that it is maybe a little uncomfortable. I have very small hands, so I feel like this thing is actually made for me. But, like, if I'm trying to use the two analog sticks, I find that it's a little uncomfortable. Like, I've got a little bit of a claw grip. And then also that I've really got to figure out how to use those analog sticks when I'm aiming in Zelda, because like trying to fire a bow just feels so uncomfortable. Like I can't get that minute change in movement. Like I feel like I'm overcorrecting too much. How are you guys feeling about
I
that?
feel like I would have more trouble if there wasn't the gyroscope, and normally I'm not a huge advocate of motion control, but recently this, and I can't remember what other game I was playing recently that used like gyro control. Gravity Rush 2 used gyro controls to more minutely aim where you're going in that game, so Zelda does that as well. I find that actually is perfect. I guess a lot of people that I've talked to have said that they've all turned that off immediately.
I
never
did,
looked back. Yeah, no, I think it's great. I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
But I might be having the same problem as you, Rob, if I had.
Yeah, I tried turning that off at first because usually I get turned off by that for aiming. But then it kind of sucked, actually, not having it off, not having it on. So then I turned it back on, and I've gotten used to it in Zelda. So it works.
Yeah, I want to give it another shot. I want to try that out again.
I think it's one of those sort of knee-jerk impulses you have to resist for once, because I did the same thing. I was like, I don't want it, but then realized that it actually worked pretty well. So
Do want
perhaps it's never executed as well as it needs to be, and this is an example of it being like, oh, okay, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, and I like the interface. You know, the UI is very basic on it right now, but I like how clean it is. I love the
Yeah.
Switch sounds. I love
Me
the
too.
sounds. Like
Yes.
it and the seamlessness for the sleep mode, because I don't know about you guys, but I just keep this thing in sleep mode all day.
Yeah.
When I want to switch over to playing like a PlayStation 4 game, like I'm playing Yakuza 0 and I'll press the PlayStation button, I have to sign in, and then it has like that initial load of like, okay, I'm looking at Kiryu's wonderful face, and then I get to play some Yakuza. It is like seamless on the Switch, even in the docking mode, even in the TV mode, like you are playing Zelda in like a second and a half. Mm-hmm. That's really, really impressive.
Yeah, it actually does what they promised it would, because a lot of the time you see these tech concepts and you think, oh my god, that's going to be so awesome, and then once you have it in your hands, there's like the little caveats here and there, like load times of 1 or 2 seconds every once in a while, and those really add up. Like, so having the Nintendo Switch quickly boot, I mean, it really is just a couple of seconds. I mean, from the time you press the home button, the screen is on and it's ready to go, and then once you dock it, it's like, what, a second and a half? So it really does deliver that promise. So I'm really pleased with that at the very least.
And I mean, like the first time that you switch from docked, from your TV to having it in handheld, and it's right there, and then there's like no lag whatsoever, and you're immediately playing, and it's exactly the way that they showed it to you when they had that little teaser trailer, and you're like, holy crap, I lost my can I
you lost your shit.
You lost your shit. I lost my shit, yeah.
You're okay. You're okay.
I really, that was a magical moment, and I don't really, and it was a magical moment, and for it to be Nintendo, for me, because you guys know I'm not a huge Nintendo fan, so I am like, huge kudos to Nintendo for making that happen. I've actually been using it more in handheld mode than anything, just because of the convenience of it. When I'm watching TV and during commercials, it's been really nice just to have it and to play for a few minutes while I'm waiting for my TV show to come back, or if I'm like Derek, if I'm waiting for a farm group in 14 to get together, I'm playing Zelda while I'm waiting for a Zervin farm to come together, and it's great.
No, thank you. No more of that.
I love it.
How many of these things? So I was filling out my E3 credentials today because I finally decided, okay, I'll go to E3. You twisted my arm enough. Okay, it's time to go.
Oh, poor baby.
Well, I don't know. I was kind of like mixed on it, and thinking about saving money. But as Jackie was pointing out, this is kind of like my one real trip of the year, my one chance to like get out of the house for a week. But like, how many Switches are we going to see at E3? Because, back at my first E3, it was all PlayStation Vitas and everybody playing Persona 4. Like, that was just what everybody was doing. There are going to be like 1 million Switches at E3. Like, it's going to be out of control. And I think, as that library starts to get more impressive, the other day we had Blaster Master Zero released, which is getting great reviews.
Which is great. I want that too.
I'm going to pick that up. I'm a big Binding of Isaac fan, and I'm trying to justify shelling out $40 to play that on the Switch. If that Switch can turn into the indie game platform of choice, like I've said it before, I really want to play Invisible Ink, but I want to play it on a handheld. Like, I don't want to play that on my PlayStation 4. I want to play that in handheld mode and be able to like walk around and get a few turns in. If they start releasing stuff like that for the Switch, I think that's what really can make or break this console. And people have said that it's very easy to develop for so far. So if this can turn into an indie game like Warehouse, ooh boy.
Like maybe some of those indies that were intended to be on Vita but ended up getting canceled due to programming problems, like Enter the Gungeon or Not a Hero. Or I saw that Momodora 4 just came to PS4, and I was talking with my friend that would be a really, really good fit for the Switch, like a nice companion to Shovel Knight.
How's the battery life, Derek, when you're playing Blaster Master? Like, because we know that the game only gets about 2.5 hours of juice for playing Zelda, and they were like, well, less intensive games you'll be able to play longer. Have you noticed anything like that when it comes to Blaster Master?
I haven't played Blaster Master in handheld mode for more than like 30 to 45 minutes in one go, so I didn't check the battery life.
Okay, I would hope it would do way better in that mode. Like when it's playing an indie game, I would really hope so. Because 2.5 hours isn't terrible. I think people are forgetting how bad the battery life was on the 3DS at first. But like you would want the smaller games to maybe last longer on it. But it's an impressive piece of technology, and I'm super excited for Nintendo. I can't E3 is going to be insane. Like if they have, a playable demo of Xenoblade 2, like, oh,
yeah, it's still scheduled for this year. And I'll tell you one thing with the Switch. Previously, I would always go for PlayStation 4 if I had a choice of platform on anything, because I wouldn't say I'm necessarily like a trophy hunter with most games, but I like trophies a lot and that they give me additional sort of meta challenges to complete within games as long as they're handled well. And I think that they can extend the life of a game. If you're already enjoying it, then it can give you good incentives to keep playing for longer. But so typically I go for PlayStation 4 and anything. But now that I have a Switch, this is the first time in years that I've ever been like, you know what? I feel like I want to make my primary purchases on my Switch now, because the convenience of being able to take it on the go alone is enough. It's worth it.
Yeah.
Because I already own Shovel Knight twice over, and I got it a third time for Switch. I want to be able to take it with me, and I've already done it several times. It's just it just works.
One thing I am a little worried about is the developers of Rime came out and said that the Switch version is going to cost $10 more, and when they got pressed on that a little bit, they intimated that was because of the construction cost of the Nintendo Switch cartridges. So I really hope that that's an outlier, because if all of a sudden the Switch versions end up costing more because of manufacturing costs, that's a killer. Like, that's something Nintendo needs to very quickly get in front of, because you can't have, like, oh, we're going to have Shovel Knight over here on the Switch for $25, and I'm just making numbers up, and on the PC, $15. Like, that's a bad thing. Like, that's where the convenience is not going to weigh out the cost in my head.
Is Rime coming out physical anywhere else? I thought it was like digital
only. I don't know. It's just it's one of those things where this is the first game that's kind of it's getting attached with the it costs more on the Switch, and that
you have to pay slightly extra to get a physical copy. I mean, I guess that's kind of understandable, but yeah, that is troubling.
Yeah, and like $40 for Binding of Isaac is maybe just
that's a lot.
Yeah, that's $10 too much. Like that. Like if that was $30, I think I would instantly do it, no problems. But at 40, I don't know.
With all the expansions, right?
It does, but I just, I already own it, and I don't want to rebuy things. I really don't. Like, says the guy who, when they come out with like the Resident Evil remake on the Switch, I'm gonna end up buying it because I'm an idiot. But like,
you say that now, but if Atlas went back and said, "Oh, we changed our minds. We're gonna port Persona 5 to Switch,"
I think I'd play it on the Switch.
Oh, you would. I would too. Like I didn't bat an eyelash when they said we're not going to port it to Switch, and I was like, I don't care. But now, after I have my Switch, I'm actually kind of disappointed because I would buy it on both systems day one if they were releasing it, because now that I have my Switch, I really desperately want to play it on the go.
Yeah, the Digital Foundry look at Dragon Quest Heroes 2, though, that has me a little concerned. Apparently the Switch version doesn't run all that great, and we're expecting that, but like 60 frames per second on PlayStation 4 versus having trouble maintaining 30 on Switch. I hope that's just bad game developers and not indicative of like, I want to play Dragon Quest 11 on this thing, but if it's going to be a far inferior version, I'm going to have to pass.
Well, we're talking about Omega Force and Koei Tecmo here rather than the Dragon Quest team. And it's, I think Heroes has been out for like a year or so in Japan, maybe 2 years, I want to say.
Yeah, Heroes has, and then Heroes 2 came out pretty recently.
Yeah, so it seems like this is a quick and dirty port.
Yeah, so. I really, really hope that's the case, but like, I'm gonna wait to see, like, I started playing Dragon Quest V, and I'm once again back in Dragon Quest, because I love Dragon Quest.
Good game.
And, I'm enjoying it so far, man. My dad just kind of left me like an asshole to just fend for myself in a cave. Like, way to go, dick! Like, come on, son, I'm gonna make a man out of you. And there's just this training montage of me beating up slimes. But like, if the Switch version of Dragon Quest XI is not as, pretty or vibrant, or it runs bad compared to the 4, I'm going to get it on PlayStation 4. Here's the real killer. What if the Switch version comes with both the 3DS version and the big console version of Dragon Quest?
They like money too much for that.
Oh my god, I would give them so much. I'd buy an $80 version of that game in a heartbeat.
Oh, I would too.
What if the Switch version is just the low-tech version?
Yes!
That's fine. I'd be cool with that.
Well, they've talked about being able to go back. They briefly talked about the director, Yuji Horii said, I would love for you to be able to go back and forth between the handheld version and the console version. And I'm like, Switch says hi? Like, this is the one that can do it, right? So I think the Switch is very, very exciting. I think this E3, not necessarily make or break for it, but I want to see what all does Nintendo have cooking right now. I think it's pretty obvious that they got this thing out the door quickly. I mean, I've run into some wireless issues here and there, and, I think they're going to end up having a left Joy-Con recall at some point. I really do. And they'll probably give you a little coffin, and you put your Joy-Con in, and then you get a new Joy-Con back. But
they perform a seance.
One Joy-Con never used. The saddest ad.
Saddest story ever told.
I honestly think they're going to have to do something like that because the press about it's been pretty bad, and it's not getting any better. But overall, as a launch, I'm very impressed with it. And if they can start bringing out some quality games for it, if the indie developers really take over on this, this is going to be really, really impressive. And in a way where Rogue Legacy on the Vita didn't feel right. It didn't look right and it didn't feel right, but I think on the Switch it's going to be perfect if they release Rogue Legacy on the Switch.
Yeah, because Shovel Knight feels perfect on it, so it's the same kind of thing.
Is that new Shovel Knight expansion good? Is that
oh
really
my
good?
God, it's so good.
I really didn't like Plague of Shadows.
I didn't either.
Okay.
And I don't think much of anybody did really. Again, this is totally anecdotal, but nobody I have spoken to has said that they loved Plague of Shadows. Everybody's been like, oh, it's kind of interesting, but whatever. Yeah, no, Spectre of Torment, holy crap, man. Leagues above. If Shovel Knight is Mega Man X, Spectre of Night is 0. It's it's a totally retooled campaign. He's got his aerial slices that feel so good to execute. Platforming challenges that make you feel smart and skilled when you pull them off. No, it's freaking fantastic. It's one of the best 2D action games I've ever played.
You sold me.
I love it. I love it.
So I think now we got to talk about Zelda.
All right, I'll be over here preparing the flame shield. You just you light it right up.
It's The Legend of Zelda, and it's
just
really
just don't put it away, otherwise the flame will go out.
Uh-oh.
And you have to reload.
No, that's good.
That was well done, Caitlin. So I want to preface all of this by saying that I like Breath of the Wild. I do. I like it. And this is coming from somebody who I detested Skyward Sword. On every level, I hated Skyward Sword. I hated its tutorials. I hated the motion controls. I hated the big open world that was somehow less interesting than Wind Waker. I think that game was terrible. Just hated it across the board. One thing I thought was okay, maybe the storytelling and actually making a romantic angle between Zelda and Link, but we're going to get there in Breath of the Wild without going into spoiler territory. Breath of the Wild made such an impression on me by just taking all that crap and just throwing it out. And my first couple hours with this game, my jaw was on the floor, but I think my jaw was on the floor because I was just impressed by this big open world, gorgeous looking watercolor, go anywhere, do anything Zelda game. And that is so different from what they have done for the past almost 20 years now. I mean, Ocarina of Time came out in 98, guys. That said, the more time I've spent with this game, the more boring is a really strong word. The more that the cracks in the systems and the fact that you're kind of doing the same thing over and over again, and a lot of it you're not really incentivized to go out and do a lot of the open world stuff, is starting to really detract. Now, I still enjoy doing the shrines. For the most part, the shrines have been fine. I've run into a couple that were a little wonky, and I think the abundance of just combat shrines is kind of BS, because they're just not fun, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, and weapon degradation. But, that part of the game is okay, but don't you guys think it's a giant missed opportunity that the only real progression in this game is either more hearts or more stamina? And there's no, I'm not saying Zelda needs a skill tree, but, for all this talk about making Link stronger so he can go save the world, it really just comes down to hearts and stamina. And not a whole lot else really matters.
I mean, the Zelda, the mechanical and stat progression formula has always been very, very basic, and and stripped back. So I don't mind that too much. I mean, what I do kind of mind is the stamina meter itself. I feel like they give you not enough early on,
Mhm.
and I haven't really seen the benefit of choosing hearts over stamina.
You mean the
Especially
best?
since you can level up your equipment to give you better defense and craft potions and stuff.
Yeah.
See, I needed to upgrade hearts because maybe just the way I've been playing, I was getting one-shotted by everything in this game. And so I had to start like going for hearts, and I had to start cooking meals that gave me like the yellow hearts that go away when you lose them. Now maybe that's just the way I was playing this game. Maybe I was pushing into areas that I really shouldn't have, but this game, on a side note, I think it does a horrible job of signposting when you shouldn't be going into an area. So like in Witcher, they put the skull above the enemy, and the skull means this is a bad mother. Like, don't mess with him. And okay, I'm not going to mess with him. In Zelda, the only indication that you have that you're going up against a bad dude is they just kill you in one shot.
But I think that kind of adds to the sense of wonder, kind
I
of
can
like
dig that,
Zelda
yeah.
1 style. And the autosaving is so generous that hasn't really been too much of a problem for me.
Well, and if you want to talk about games having a sort of built-in language teaching you how to play it, I think you learn pretty quickly that the red enemies are like the weakest tier, and then blue is stronger and black is stronger than that. So I think that's, if you want to make the age-old Souls comparison
Don't do
here,
it!
like,
Oh, God!
they're teaching you something without having to tell you, like, this is the weak one, this is the strong one. They don't say that, but I think you very clearly in like the first Moblin camp you find, there's one blue one that's way the hell stronger than the rest. So I think they give you enough explanation just by showing you that. So if I see something strong, I run, because like you said, there's a double-edged sword there with them not really incentivizing killing enemies. It's like, if you don't need to kill it, just run.
Yeah, I think I was playing this game incorrectly at first, where I was really like going to every Moblin camp and killing every Moblin that I could, and just
No wonder you got worn out.
yeah. So like I just was like, I got to go over there. There's a thing, and I got to go over there. There's a thing, and so since I've started focusing myself to okay, I'm going to complete shrines on the way to the main objectives because I really am not digging these Moblin camps. I've actually started enjoying the game more, but like there's aspects of this game that feel kind of half-baked, and I'm not just saying that for a pun when it comes to cooking, but like I'm honestly shocked that the camera is somehow worse than it's ever been in a Zelda game before. Like, it doesn't follow when you Z-target. You still have to manipulate the camera with the right analog stick, which is
that's bad.
that's a step backwards from Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword and Ocarina of Time, for God's sake. So when you start fighting more than one enemy, there's no way to do the Dark Souls thing of like keeping them all in front of you so they're all facing your shield. And also, like, since everything is physics based, there are times where I get hit and my shield was up where I'm just like, how the hell did that hit me? Like, everything in this game is physics based. And I don't know if that was a good design decision. Like, I really don't know, because there are times where something wonky will happen physics-wise, where, like, Link gets hit and he won't stop tumbling down the mountain, even though the mountain is at, like, a 5-degree incline, and you're like, I just started tumbling down going, as you wish. Okay, but, like, it just... Like, how is the camera in this game worse? And also, how is the combat somehow worse than Wind Waker? Like, to try to dodge, like, you have to press 2 buttons at the same time. I cannot get that to consistently activate. I can't get the flurry time to consistently activate. And one of the, like, encounters in the game, which is more of a stealth encounter because the guy does so much damage and you're not really supposed to fight him, like, that was just infuriating. Like, I can't get this timing down. Like, okay, on the one hand, you made it really hard because Wind Waker, it was pretty easy. But, like, I think that's how I'm supposed to do this encounter, because otherwise, how the hell am I supposed to beat it? Like,
I have a litany of reactions that I don't know how to go through all at once. So I think
a good discussion, yeah.
Yeah, so I think, for one, this is fairly, and I don't mean this to be condescending, I think this is fairly typical of the way you approach games, is that you tend to miss the forest for the trees. So you'll find an issue that you don't like, and then you'll kind of fixate on it, and then it's like that sours the entire experience for you. So I think that's happening
right there
when it comes to combat and camera, because those are two things that I haven't had difficulty with. And I'm not saying that like it's impossible to have difficulty with them, but when I'm playing, like, if I have an issue, I usually think, oh, maybe I didn't approach that the right way, or I need to get better at controlling it, because these controls are very complex. I
Oh
think
my
this
God.
is the hardest Zelda to control
It
by
is.
far.
It's like,
I don't know how much of that I can chalk up to it being a new system and a new controller that I'm just getting the hang of, or if it's just a really overly complex control scheme. Because I think some of it is just bad, like the
Some of
holding
it's
down a
just
button.
Zelda.
yeah.
Well, I don't like having to
fair.
hold down like a trigger and then go left or right on the pad to cycle through stuff. That's kind of hard to get the hang of at first.
Hmm.
I don't want to sidetrack you for too long, Derek, because I agree with the points that you're making. The controls in this game, like, it took me about 3 or 4 days before I was comfortable with the controls. Like, at first, first off, who the hell at Nintendo decided that A was going to be confirm on everything? Because that is like, as somebody who has
Always
played,
has been.
yeah,
I mean, A on the right?
A on the, so like on your
Yeah, it should
diamond,
be.
which is the B button on an Xbox 360 controller, or the circle
Yeah.
button on a PlayStation controller. Yeah, now
Circle
go
is
back.
yes, X is no.
No, in America, X is yes. Like, God damn it. So, like, I was, first off, I was just having a hell of a time with the menus there, and I had to, like, train myself, and then I went back to my PlayStation, and now I have to train myself the other way. But the controls in this game are so complex that, like, Jackie was sitting there going, can I have the controller? I want to climb a tree. And I'm like, how do I describe to her how to climb a tree? I'm like, okay, you have to press this. So, like, the controls in this game are intense, and there is a huge learning curve to this game. Derek, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to say, yeah, that the controls in this game, whoo boy.
I agree. There is
There's
a big
like
learning curve.
1 or 2 buttons that they'd let you remap, and that's it.
But you can swap them, and both of them should neither have the functions that those 2 buttons have.
Yeah, it
No.
doesn't make any sense.
No. Derek, keep going.
No, it's okay. I agree that that's pretty unwieldy, so I'm right there with you. Another thing is, you were talking about this a little bit on our forums, our staff boards, about how you want there to be more incentive to explore and to discover. And I get where you're coming from on that, because if it was just a big world with nothing in it to do at all, I probably wouldn't enjoy exploring it either, because it is beautiful, yes, but like just sort of basic game design is that you have to give the player a reason to do stuff in the world. And I guess that's not really true of all games, because we have things like Minecraft, but for me especially, the games that hold my attention are ones that do incentivize me to a degree. That being said, I think that Zelda has enough, and it's the type of world that I do just enjoy exploring, to take in vistas and stuff. Like, I just want to go to the top of that ridge to see what's at the top of that ridge. I don't need an achievement to pop saying, 50 gamer score, congrats, you got to the top of the ridge. Like, for me, it's enough in Zelda, and I think it's because the art design in that game is top of its class. And I think that I'm going to put this in air quotes, it gets away with having less incentives because it is such a beautiful world and it's so well crafted. That's how I see it.
I think Zelda has, in modern Zelda, and when I say modern Zelda, I mean Ocarina of Time forward, I think modern Zelda has always had this problem, which is that you have these side activities and these different things that you can do and caves that you can find. Like, I remember there was that one really spooky cave in Twilight Princess where you had to have like the lantern and you're going through and there's bats, and then I think there was a Stalfos at the end of it, and then you open up a chest and there's 50 rupees. And like, Zelda has always had that problem. So it's not that Breath of the Wild has a problem that has never existed. It's just that now there was this opportunity to really do something around that, to get around that. And this was a point that Steven was actually making. We were talking on Gmail today about this. You get all of your abilities, in giant air quotes here, you get all your abilities in the first area of this game. There is no hook shot. There is no ice rod. There's none of this stuff. So the progression in the game has effectively stopped. Like, yeah, you get a unique power for each one of the 4 major dungeons that you complete, one of them just being a resurrect, which, thank you for that. That's actually helped with the one problem I have, which is the constant dying. Thank you. But, like, the game is not about Link getting stronger outside of the hearts and the stamina. And I agree with you. Getting to the top of a ridge in this game is extremely satisfying. And when there's a shrine on top of that ridge, and I go in and I complete the puzzle in the shrine, I'm very happy and I've got a smile on my face. But I'm just wondering, like, is this it? Like, is this all there is to it? And yeah, I agree that like games can fall into this trap of like, oh, you got to the top of one mountain and you have 50 more mountains before you get the mountain achievement. Like, I totally get that. I understand that. But couldn't there have been like incentives like, oh, maybe now you have a better chance of recovering your arrows, or maybe now recovered arrows show up on the map, or here's maybe your bombs get better, or you can throw 2 bombs at a time. Like there's basic progression stuff that this game is not doing that is kind of mystifying.
You can upgrade your runes. Like it's
you can, but you upgrade them once, and they're still not required to solve puzzles. They're more like quality of life improvements. But again,
that's all I'd want them to be.
I like the fact that they give you this very limited and simple tool set and then challenge you to get creative with it to solve problems. I think it's a really kind of smart and quite daring way of doing it, personally.
I can agree with that. I can. But I just feel like when I'm solving these problems, the rewards are not tangible. And then I have to lead this all to the number one criticism I have with this game, which is the durability system is it's almost a deal breaker. Because this is where Derek's point from a few minutes ago about me missing the forest through the trees, I can agree with him on that, but because I have to interact with this god-awful durability system all day, every day.
I hate durability systems.
Look, it can be used effectively. I've seen it done well. This game might be the most egregious use of weapon durability I've ever seen in a modern game.
Have you played Dark Cloud?
No.
I will not be an apologist for things that I think don't work, and just because I like the overall experience. And I agree, the durability system is frustrating.
Yeah.
My sort of caveat there, or my asterisk on that, was I was under the impression that at some point in the game, durability would stop mattering. Like I would get a weapon, hint, hint, that didn't have durability or something like that.
Nope.
But, like the Master Sword, right?
Maybe like that. But from what I've heard, that might not be the case. So I'm not 100% sure on that.
And that's and again, maybe if they went in and tuned it with a patch, I don't know how much we can expect this from Nintendo, but if they went in and just turned the weapon durability up 4 times. You know?
Make it like Dark Souls, so it's really unobtrusive,
Right.
Or maybe give you the option of keeping track of it somehow. I mean,
oh my god, that is the worst, right?
Every time I go into the menu and I see, you can see a sparkling icon. I think that means, maybe it's okay, it's good, it's not.
Sparkling means that it will get hit by lightning. Found that out. Which was hysterical.
But I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, it's a box. Maybe there could be like a color behind it and it gradually turns colors, or maybe it depletes as the durability. Something that I can keep track of it and say, okay, this thing is going to break soon, before I get the message in the middle of combat saying your bow is almost broken, and then it breaks on me and suddenly I have whiplash.
Have you guys ever had your bow, weapon, and shield all break in the span of 3 seconds?
Oh, not yet.
Yeah, that was
Triple
fun.
play.
It was one of those moments where I just hit the pause button and I just took a lap around the house. I was just like, because again, it can be done well. I think that there's ways to make this better, and I get what they're going for, because they want this sense of survival. I mean, this is a AAA version of Don't Starve in some really weird way, and I can dig that.
That's cool, yeah.
But it's so it is so damn annoying. And it really, to watch YouTube videos of people fighting, big nasty monsters and going through 4 or 5 weapons. It's like, did nobody at Nintendo put up their hand and go, are people really going to have fun with this?
Yeah.
Because
and okay, so the mentality is you're always going to find new weapons, so you'll never run out of weapons. Okay, cool. That's fine. And they want you to constantly be experimenting with new weapons, so you're always shifting tactics. Okay, that's also cool. But when a weapon breaks, that's it. You never get it back. So if you find a cool weapon that you like and it breaks, that's it. Done. You never get it back unless you just happen to find it somewhere else in the world from another weapon, another enemy or whatnot. So if you could like repair weapons somehow, like Witcher, that'd be cool. So if I found a weapon I liked and it's about to break, maybe I can set it aside and repair it, even if it means having to backtrack to a town somewhere to do it. That'd be cool. So I'd have to maybe weigh my options. Do I want to go back to town right now? Waste my time, possibly have to, backtrack for a quest. Or maybe I have to, use other weapons and change my tactics while I'm on this quest, and then later on go back to town and repair this weapon that I really like. That would have been maybe a better way to balance durability and let me keep weapons that I like, but still encourage me to use other weapons. I don't know.
It's actively. Go ahead, Robert. Go ahead.
Maybe way more slots as well.
Which I've started to fix. Like there is a system for getting more slots, but like
there is, but still, it never feels like it's enough.
No, and you always need to keep one slot for a leaf in case you need to create wind, and you should probably have another slot for an axe that you can use to chop down trees. Like you should have
and a hammer to get gems.
Yep, it feels very inelegant, and it's one of these things that because I have to interact with it over and over again, it has actively made me just run away from combat. I'm just like, nope, I don't want to deal with this. And this begs the question, and Jeff Gerstmann brought this up on Giant Bomb. Like, I want to cite him. I don't want it to sound like I was the one who came up with this. If this was a full-fledged RPG and Link was getting stronger through combat, do you think we could forgive the weapon durability at that point? Because then you'd have an incentive to go do it, right?
I don't know.
If I was getting experience for combat, maybe.
Because I don't want to engage in any more combat with this game, because it's just a hassle, and I'm not getting anything from it. So it's like, yeah, that Moblin camp, I might get some ice arrows if I go over there, but I'm going to spend 15 fire arrows to get it.
I wonder if this is just sort of a symptom of that being one of the pillars of Zelda design they're not willing to let go of.
Yeah.
Like if they had implemented an experience system, then it would have been less of an issue. Because I would be happy with that. I like leveling up my characters and stuff. Give me that. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that. I don't think this is a perfect game, by the way. One of the critiques that you made of Breath of the Wild is that you think that it's critic proof, and I don't see it quite that way. I think that people are really high on it.
It's got a 98 on Metacritic right now. It's currently the highest rated game of the past 5 years.
That doesn't mean
most
perfect.
Of those reviews, right, that's not perfect. Well, those reviews aren't saying, nothing is wrong with this game in any way. The text isn't just the word perfect 500 times.
Well, I find it... okay, so, and this isn't me attacking you guys. This is just a thesis that I have. You know how people talk about the Sonic cycle? When, a Sonic game is announced, everybody, loses their mind and says, it's going to be Sonic's coming back, everybody! And then the game comes out, and it's battered wife syndrome. Okay, it's another bad Sonic game. Okay, we all knew this was going to happen. And I just realized that was a really off-color joke, and I apologize for that. That wasn't cool. I shouldn't have done that. But it's a joke, right? That Sonic games, we always get really excited about them. They come out, and then we find out that they're garbage. And then every once in a while, you get a good one. Yes, Steven, stop yelling and screaming on the internet right now. But with Zelda, here's what happens: a Zelda game comes out. It is declared to be in the reincarnation of the Lord Jesus Christ, and it will lead us all to the Promised Land. And then about 6 months to a year later, the Zelda backlash happens. And I actually think that sometimes the backlash is way over the top. You now see message boards of people just saying that Twilight Princess was a complete waste of time. And I loved that game when it came out, and I still love that game. I thought Skyward Sword was trash when I played it when it first came out, and I still think that game's trash. But Skyward Sword was heralded as oh my god, this is amazing. This is the most fantastic Zelda. Motion controls are validated, blah 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 blah. And now you read message boards, it's well, Skyward Sword was kind of bad. I think Breath of the Wild is going to have one of the biggest backlashes on a Zelda game in recent memory, and I think that that's undeserved because I don't think it's a bad game. But the fact that it is currently sitting at a review score that is insane considering some of the problems with this game. And I agree with you, Robert. 10 does not mean perfect, but there are some. Reading review after review for this game, I don't know if it was a combination of being excited for a new console, the fact that this was a new Zelda game and we hadn't had one in so long, but I feel like this game kind of didn't get the attention and the criticism that it deserved. Like, to read a line in a review where they go, some people are going to have a problem with the durability system, but I didn't really find it that annoying. I just want to find that person and, like, beat them to death with a tire iron. I'm like, really? Until the tire iron breaks.
But then,
I'm like, really?
Giant Bomb has a big problem with the durability system, and they gave it a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, but Dan Riker didn't. Like, Dan Riker was like, yeah, I didn't really have that big of a deal with it, but, like, the rest of Giant Bomb is like, what the hell? Like,
but, this is very subjective, but I mean,
it is.
Counterpoint. Zelda doesn't really do anything for me personally, and I don't find the games very exciting, and I'm finding Breath of the Wild to be outstanding.
Yeah, it does some things that I really like, and that sense of place is probably better than any game in recent memory. And again, any game that evokes Shadow of the Colossus at times is going to be like I'm an easy lay for that. Like, I'm all over that. But like, there's something about this game that it's like, it is beautiful, but very thin. Like, just very, very thin. And you're kind of doing the same thing. Games by their very nature are very repetitive, but like, it sort of feels like Neo in a way, where it's like, I've done the thing that this game wants me to do, and I've been doing it for about 5 days now. I have no idea what my in-game clock is on this game, and I wish I could see one. But like, sooner or later, I've kind of scaled a bunch of mountains. I've kind of fought a bunch of moblins. I've done a lot of shrines, and
consider Neo keeps sending you back to the same maps over and over again.
Yeah,
though.
which is really bad. That's true.
Consider the food that you crave the most often, like, or your absolute favorite dish. If you eat it over and over and over, you're probably going to get tired of it before long, and you'll want to switch it up.
Not Indian.
I'd agree with you. I love Indian food.
Yeah, I love Indian food.
It's one of those things, just like maybe you're just getting fatigued and you need to step back. Like,
I took a step back today. I barely played it today because I want to try to build up that excitement again. I just think that this game, and Robert's right. It is a very subjective argument, and the thesis that I'm throwing out there is something that can't be proven or disproven. And so it's like, it's not a real helpful discussion. But I'm just honestly shocked. I advocate on this podcast over and over again that when I'm critical of a game, it's because I want games to be better. And
that's great.
Yeah, but this game getting boundless praise, and I actually thought US Gamer did a pretty good job of, like, they gave it a good review score, but at the same time they were pointing out some criticisms with the game. Like, I think this game kind of got off scot-free in a way.
Well, and this is saying something coming from somebody who writes reviews of video games, but counterpoint, who cares? Like, who cares what kind of reviews it's getting? Like,
yeah, no, that's true.
Ultimately, it's a subjective experience. Every review is subjective. Like, it's entirely possible that there's some sort of, like, everybody's accessing the morphogenetic field and, like, feeling, they're happy about it, so I got to give it a really good review. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I think reviews, of course, like, we write them. Reviews are a very useful barometer when taken as, like, a complete picture of how good a game is. For me, when I write a review, it's not me trying to impress upon anybody. Like, this is the truth about this game and you have to accept it. It's me saying this was my experience and what I got from it. So I think you can look at the picture of every review for Zelda pretty much being good and be like, all right, this is a really, this game is probably worth my time. But that doesn't mean it's free of issues.
I agree with you, and I think in that gray area, there's definitely room for discussion, but it's kind of like if somebody gave Breath of the Wild a 1 out of 10, we would all be incredibly dismissive of that person's review, right?
Somebody has given it a lower score, and I'm not going to say who, but they were like, right, this is the review that we didn't get paid to write.
Right,
okay.
Exactly. Like, we can throw that review out, but what if somebody did give the game a 1 out of 10 because they genuinely didn't like it? Again, it's an argument that you can go back and forth on. I'm just a little this Zelda cycle of, like, in another year, everyone's going to be talking about how Breath of the Wild wasn't all that great. It's bothersome to me. It is like, were we playing the same game? Like, when I was arguing with all those reviewers about Skyward Sword, and I was like, really? You guys liked motion control? Because I don't think they're ever going to use motion control ever again. And they were like, nah, man, motion control is here to stay. And these are, like, reviewers from actual, like, outlets like IGN and Games Radar. Boy, wouldn't you know it. They kind of seem to have taken motion controls out, didn't they? Yeah, they kind of. they kind of said F it to those, didn't they?
I'm
Well-
with you. I didn't like Skyward Sword at all, but I will say I think the high point of that game was some of the motion sword one-on-one duels. That was
I liked them too.
me anyway.
Caitlin, you were going to say?
Yeah, sorry,
Um,
Caitlin.
I don't know how much I buy into Rob's argument about a cycle, although I certainly see that being the case with Final Fantasy a lot, so I'm sure that happens. But I mean, that happens a lot with franchises as big as Zelda and mega franchises. It's the last one was amazing when it comes out, and then it sucks, and so on and so forth, because we're all sort of hyper aware of the immense history and the pedigree of a series, and the game has to super live up to every entry before it, and if it's perceived to not live up to all the amazing entries before it, then it's a failure, and if it seems like it does, then it's the second coming of what did you say, our Lord Savior?
Yeah, the Lord Jesus Christ. I think that's.
Yeah.
I also live in Eagles country when it comes to football, so every year is the reincarnation of the Lord Jesus Christ around here. So
I just kind of find all of that exhausting to follow. Like the entire, we have to be hyper fixated on what the reception is now and what it will be in the future and everything. It's just like.
But I wonder if it's
like.
impossible to escape that, even if I don't think people consciously, when they're writing reviews, I mean, we certainly don't, but I don't think most people are consciously thinking about that when they're playing a game or when they're writing a review, but I don't know how it's maybe possible to necessarily escape that, maybe unconsciously when you're playing games in a series that's been running this long, just as a matter of course, because it is such a long running series. And if you've played all the games in this series, and if you're aware of the tradition, then you're thinking about all of the previous entries and what this game does differently, or and in your opinion better or not better, and that sort of kind of informs your opinion, and that can all sort of compound into your ultimate, good, not good, 5 out of 5, 1 out of 5, Is Kotaku still doing their yes, no?
yes.
No, they've gotten rid of that. They've just got pros and cons now.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, no, you're right. They don't even. Yeah.
I can't keep up with all these different rating scales, I really do like our percentages.
Yeah, and this goes back a little bit to when I was writing my review for Neo, and I was like, I had this real up and down with that game where I was really down on it at first, and then, 10 to 15 hours in, I started really, really loving it, and I would have given the game a very high score, and then as I just kept playing it and it had nothing new to show me and I was just doing the same thing for another 20 hours, like I started souring on it a little bit. And then I think Derek's right. I tend to fixate a little bit on review scores, but when I start seeing like just boundless praise and I start questioning like, what does it mean to give a review for a game? And I try to do a critical analysis. This is what I think worked. This is what I think didn't work. And you're right. That's a totally like subjective thing to do. But I do take it seriously because I want the games to get better. Like, I actually think the Neo guys did a great job of listening to fan feedback, and they made, when that game was first being demoed, that game was woof. And they actually made it into something that was pretty good because of that criticism that they received. And, they talked about at GDC, like the things that they listened to and the things that they were like, nope, that is a design decision that we really feel confident on. I think that's important. I would have loved to have been a guy who was brought in to play test Breath of the Wild because I would have like crashed through the one-way mirror, grabbed Miyamoto, started strangling him and been like, you need to fix durability. Because, like, this game would be amazing if you would just fix this one little thing. Like, this is one of those things where it's like, I don't know what the dogged determination of the game developers was there for. Like, I think they honestly made a mistake. And to read a review where, they just didn't even mention weapon durability. Like, really? That didn't bother you? Maybe it didn't bother them. I don't know. But, like, I guess it comes down to, am I trying to validate somebody's purchase when I write a review, or am I trying to give a critical analysis? And for me, it's a critical analysis.
Yeah.
I don't want people to look at my review and be like, Well, Rob Steinman gave it a 95, and that means it has the seal of approval. The seal of approval. Like, no, like, I'm not trying to validate your purchase. Like, I'm saying what I think about this game. You guys know my stance. I want to get rid of review scores completely on the site, but that's not going to happen. Like, that's where my stance is. I think the language of the review is way more important. And then you go back and read some reviews from the day, that Dead Space 2 review by that Kind of Funny idiot, and good Lord, like, not Kind of Funny, what is it? Is it Kind of Funny? Who's the guy I hate? I always forget his name.
He's from Kind of Funny.
He is from Kind of Funny. And his writing was atrocious on IGN. His writing was atrocious. Like, it was just terrible writing. Like, he was basically like, it's a game. And I'm like, there's no analysis here about what is going on with the game. And I really don't like that. And now people love him. And it's just like...
Well, he makes content. So
yes, I know.
That's what it's all about these days.
Yeah, and IGN is now doing we're going to have 2 people play Zelda Breath of the Wild. And we're going to do it with 2 Joy-Con remotes. So I think that's enough Zelda talk, because I don't want this to turn into the Zelda podcast. But, we're going to keep playing it.
Really? It can't be the Zelda podcast, but it can be the Dark Souls? I'm just kidding.
No. Oh, you with the things that you do. But no, I want to talk about the game that I kind of wish I was playing it instead of Zelda. And I'm not saying that to bash Zelda. I'm just saying, tell me about Nier. How good is it?
Good. I would go so far as to say very good.
Is it very, very good?
It's somewhere between very good and excellent, I would say.
Okay. What I've heard about this game is that the story is so bat crap crazy that I'm going to love it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just like the previous Nier. I know you've played it also a lot, Robert. I got it yesterday morning and I have like 12 hours in it.
Oh my God.
Because it's all I've been doing with my free time. So I've gotten one ending, and I don't know how many there are, but It is definitely not done when the credits roll the first time, because you haven't even scratched the surface. Okay.
I think there's 5 endings.
I haven't even, there's no way that the game can't even be like a quarter over, maybe a third over where I am right now. So, Robert, why don't you share your thoughts first?
Well, I'm amazed that this is even a thing. I didn't think anybody would give Yoko Taro money to do another Nier game. So I'm very, very pleasantly surprised that this is finally arrived and is a tangible thing. I'm enjoying it a lot so far. I'm much, much earlier on than you, Derek. At the time of recording, it's just dropped here in the UK today, and I picked it up. I picked it up during my lunch break and got about 2.5 hours in before we started recording. But it's got all that sort of trademark batshit craziness that you would expect from a Yoko Taro game. Like breaking the fourth wall to have, you get damaged in combat and then you have to mess with the options and like turn the volume back up and turn the brightness back up to recover from your injuries. That sort of stuff I really like. The game also opens with this really striking vertical shooter segment where you have bullets and melee attacks. It feels a little bit like Soul Divide or maybe that recent game Aster Breed, which I found really striking. I don't know if you played either of those.
I played Aster Breed.
But yeah, it's that sort of, from what I've seen so far, it's that perfect fusion of all sorts of different disparate genres thrown into a what looks like it's going to be a very sizable RPG with some really cool character designs.
Mm-hmm. Now, I wanted to ask, because when I played this demo, like that, good Lord, that might be one of the best demos I've played in recent memory. Like,
really
I
good.
was totally on board. Does the game manage to sustain that level of energy? Because like usually with an action adventure game that's, that combat focused, 10, 15 hours, that's usually like the cutoff, right? But this game, multiple endings, and you just got to one of the endings after about 12 hours. Can it sustain that level, like by giving you new enemies, like new things to fight?
No.
Is it? No? Oh,
No.
Oh, God damn it.
It's definitely, no, that doesn't mean it's bad, but it does not sustain that energy level. And what kind of surprised me is I didn't know this before it came out. I was seeing a couple of ads here and there and they were like, try the best open world action RPG this season or whatever. And I was like, first, okay, that must just be sort of like pandering to people who like open world games or whatever. But it kind of has a sort of like mildly open world, and I don't like that about it.
Really?
Because pretty early on, you get to the ruined Earth, and there's sort of like a base of operations that's set up there, and you go to all of the. It's sort of like you start there, and then you get to a level, more or less, that's a pretty linear experience. But the hub area where you have to traverse to get to each of those levels, it seems needlessly large to me, and there are fast travel points everywhere, except you don't unlock fast travel until like probably a third to half of the way through the story. So there's a lot of there's a couple segments where you have to run back and forth between places. Like there's one in particular where you find a little village in a forest, and you have to go back and forth between it twice as to progress the story. It's like get this thing and then run it back to point B and then run from point B to point A again. And I was just like, why am I doing
near
this?
one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It has those weird sort of like I don't know what word I'm looking for, like not asynchronous, but aberrant, whatever. Like these weird moments that don't really seem to fit in with the rest of it. Because when you're in a quote unquote level, it's fantastic. Like it's very much segmented into these sequences, each of which is sort of distinct tonally, not tonally, but like atmospherically. There's like a water ruined city in the water, there's a forest, there's a castle. Like each of those feels very different and is memorable, but the in between I don't care for. Now, whether or not they're using that sort of that premise to subvert it later, I don't know, because Yoko Taro does that. He might be like, hey, remember when you ran all those annoying errands? It was for a reason, because when you were running from point A to point B at that point in the story, this other thing was happening, and we wanted to convey a sense of time. Like that's the sort of thing I could envision happening in this game. Because there's already been some pretty interesting things. Like one of the first things to happen in the beginning of the game, and this isn't a spoiler because I don't know if it affects anything or not, but when the main character is 2B, she's booting up, she's an android, and your partner 9S is running through your boot sequence. He's like, okay, let's adjust your brightness, let's adjust your sound, and make sure you enable your self-destruct option, because that's protocol. You have to do it, and you have on or off, and if you hit no, he's like, no, really, you have to. It's protocol. So you keep hitting off, and he has a bunch of responses. He's like, I'm serious. You have to put it on. So I put it on, exited that, and went right back into it and turned it off again. And he was like, all right, you know what? You can keep it off. I'm not going to tell anybody, but keep it a secret.
Wow.
So I felt like that's the kind of thing that could tie into an important plot point later on, like you're surrounded by enemies and you would self-destruct, but it's not on, so the game does something different. Like that's the kind of thing that this game is doing, and I think it's very fascinating. Mm-hmm. There's also an option that you get after you beat the game once that changes how some characters sound if you turn it on. So that's kind of it. I wonder if there might be a point in the game where if I didn't have that on or off, I wouldn't know what was going on necessarily, because Yoko Taro. So.
There was that thing in the demo where you could like take your operating chip out and the game would just end. And of course I did it. I was just like, oh, I'm just gonna take that out. All right, well, back to the title menu. All right, well, they weren't playing around. That's the kind of stuff that we talk about. Video games need to embrace the fact that you can do really cool things like that in a video game setting. Like, remember 999, VLR, those are stories that can only be told in a video game. And
I feel that way about this so far. That's how the previous Nier was, and I think this game is going to be the same way from everything I've seen.
Yeah.
It's unconventional, and I appreciate that.
I think that previous game was pretty groundbreaking in some of its ideas.
Yeah.
And I hope to see if this follows suit. I don't know if it really could, but I guess we'll see.
My initial worry is that it's going to be copycat syndrome, where it's just going to do the same thing in a different way. Like it's the same idea of you have to replay. Because here I am. I'm on my second quote unquote playthrough after seeing the credits roll once, even knowing that that's not the end of it. Because I am repeating areas in playthrough 2. It's going way faster because I know exactly where to go and what to do. And there are new things happening throughout. But it is still like, I went to this place, now I have to go to the forest again, now I have to go to the desert again. And a lot of the dialogue is the same, but not all of it. So I worry a little bit that it might be taking the framework left by the original Nier a little bit too closely, but they're probably building that up to screw with me because Yoko Taro. So yeah, it's I think in the moment to moment gameplay, it's very fun. I just wish there wasn't so much in between tedium, and if they cut that out, I think it'd be even better. But like I said, maybe I'll come to appreciate it later on. Who knows?
I think I'm going to get it for PC, but I've got a problem, which is by the time I finish Zelda, we're going to be really close to Persona 5. And I think that means Nier might have to wait for the summer, which really sucks. I remember when I said, like, they announced Breath of the Wild was coming out so close to Nier, and I was like, that really sucks.
Yeah, I'm exhausted, definitely, by all the games that are out. And first of all, I'm exhausted by all the games coming out. Second of all, I'm exhausted by how many of them have open world elements, because it's like, just give me a guided experience right now, you guys. I've always tended to prefer the linear guided stuff in general anyway. But yeah, especially with all the games, the big ones, the big releases having so many open areas to explore and sub-objectives and stuff. It's not that I don't want there to be more game to play. It's just like, why do you all have to be out at the same time?
Oh, did I tell you, Derek, that I beat Persona 3?
No.
I did it!
Did you?
I did it!
You did.
I finally beat it.
I think you actually mentioned it on the last podcast in passing, but you didn't tell me.
I think what I said was I was trying to beat it, and I sat down for like a week and a half, and I just plugged away at it, and I beat the last boss fairly easily, but I didn't realize that there's actually a thing where you can get majorly screwed on that boss battle and basically have to restart it. I'm really glad I didn't run into that, because that might have killed me beating that game.
I felt kind of bad because the first time I fought that last boss, I had one of the, I forget what they're called, but like the dual abilities, and it was Armageddon, I think, where it just does 9999, and since the boss has so many forms, it's just like every turn I went through a form. It was like 999 next form, 999 next form.
What ability did you have? I didn't even realize that.
It's some, like, you have to have two specific personas with two specific abilities in your arsenal, and then you can use Armageddon or something like that.
Oh, okay. I love that final boss music. That was so good.
So good.
Yes.
It's that creepy, like, tuned up version of the Velvet Room, and it's like, oh man, like, even though that battle took me like an hour, I was totally into it the whole time. That was a really good ending.
That's an incredible experience.
It is. It reminds me of Digital Devil Saga 2 also has a final battle like that just has this sort of amazing pulsing music, and it's pretty long because it's a huge enemy and stuff. Those experiences are what I live for in RPGs. I love them so much.
So, in Apocalypse Watch, anybody beat Apocalypse? No, I'm the only one who did it.
No,
I haven't touched it, man. Did I not just tell you that I have like 8,000 other games to play, and I'm also...
I'm going to keep bringing this up on every podcast where I get both of you, because you need to know my pain with that game.
I know.
But I've got Zelda, I've got Neo, I've got Dragon Quest VIII.
Wait, you're going to play Neo? Oh, Nier. Okay.
No, sorry. Neo and Nier.
You're gonna play Neo?
Yeah, my roommate got it. I started it already.
You're not gonna.
But then I had to kind of put it on hold. I got Blaster Master Zero.
You're not gonna finish it.
More Shovel Knight. You know what?
You're not
Maybe I will.
No, not because you're not good. Like, it's not that. Like, you're plenty good. Like, don't get me wrong. I got good. That game just runs out of stuff to show you.
Mm-hmm. Like, I beat Izanami, and then I went back to the dungeon that I was supposed to be in, and I went, and I saved my game, and I haven't fired it up again.
Which one was Izanami? Which one?
Izanami. It's the end of the quest line with the Patriots and the ghosts.
Oh, I was like, Persona 4, what are we talking about?
Wait,
you're talking about Neo.
Wait, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm talking about Apocalypse.
Oh
my god.
Okay. Well, no, because Neo actually does some of that storyline, so I was...
Oh, yeah.
You guys thought Persona 4, so that...
Oh, we got crazy.
Yeah, 3 games. Yeah.
Golly. No.
Oh, man. And speaking of other games, Persona 5's coming out, but 2 weeks from now, a little something called Mass Effect Andromeda drops.
I'm going to set that one out. I'm going to
wait.
I'm getting more and more excited for it.
It looks really good, but I just...
have no choice but to play it at this point.
Oh, well.
Don't get all excited for it or anything.
I think I'm ready for a new Mass Effect, but something about it is not exciting me. Like, I don't know what it is, but, maybe it's going to be one of the... I wasn't excited to play Mass Effect 2, and I ended up loving it, and I loved Mass Effect 3 until yeah, that happened. But like, I don't know. I think what's going to happen is I'm going to play Nier this summer, and I'm going to keep saying, yeah, I'm going to play Mass Effect. I'm going to play Mass Effect. I ran into the same problem with Rise of the Tomb Raider, where I started playing that, and I was like, wow, this is just the same damn game as Tomb Raider. Huh. And like 4 hours in, I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, it's the same damn game. Like, if Mass Effect is just more Mass Effect, and I'm just shooting aliens in the face over and over again with a sniper rifle, I'm going to get bored. Like, I don't know.
You get to bang so many aliens.
Oh god, didn't they say it's like softcore porn? I'm like, oh great. So I'm gonna be able to see like the incisions and stuff.
Ugh.
Whoa.
What an attractive
What
word.
is porn like for you?
Oh
Yeah.
no, they got that low grade softcore
Stomas.
porn on like Anywho.
No, thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about Horizon Zero Dawn, the game that's kind of been drowned out by Zelda.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about this.
Yeah, I want to know if this game, like, everybody loved this game for the most part, and then Zelda came out and it was like, well, bye Horizon, like, bye Felicia. So, like, am I going to like Horizon more than I like Zelda?
I certainly hope so. I mean, from what I know of you, though, there will be things that you probably won't like about Horizon, but I mean, that's probably par for the course. So, but there's so much to love about Horizon, and I really do think that there are things that Horizon does better than Zelda. So that's just my opinion, and take it with a grain of salt. I am not a huge Zelda fan. I do like Breath of the Wild a lot, but I am loving the crap out of Horizon, and I am enjoying it overall more than Zelda Breath of the Wild. So in my opinion, it's a better game, but I think they are different games, and they will appeal to people for different reasons. I think you can like both.
That's impossible. We're video gamers. We can only like one.
I know, you're right.
Sega does what Nintendo don't.
Damn.
I only date one game at a
You
time.
can only like one, and if you like both, you are cast out, and you are officially not a video gamer anymore. No.
Polyamory, the game.
Definitely polygamers, yeah.
No. Okay, so quick rundown on what Horizon is. It's it's a post-apocalyptic game. Something we don't know exactly what happened that set humanity back into the Stone Ages. There are giant robots. Some of them are dinosaurs. Some of them are saber-toothed tigers. We don't know who made them. We don't know what they're supposed to be doing. All we know is that they kind of want to eat us. It's
Like Nier.
Exactly, except, well, I don't think the people are androids. They certainly don't look like they're androids. Maybe, I don't know. There's a bunch of mysteries around the world because there are ruins dotted throughout the landscape that are all sci-fi and technologically advanced, but they're all abandoned and look like they've been ruined for like hundreds or possibly thousands of years. So something really bad went down, and they are forbidden. So there's a lot of mystery as to what happened and why they're forbidden. The main character, named Aloy, stumbles into one of these ruins when she's a child, finds a magical technological device that lets her sort of interact with her environment in a unique way called a focus. And that's what sort of gives her the ability to, it gives her sort of her detective vision, as you will, or her Witcher sense. You know, it's sort of the ubiquitous skill that lets you sort of make sense of your environment. But it also lets her scan enemies and see their weaknesses, and that plays a role in combat because one of the really cool things in Horizon is when you're facing off against the robotic foes, you can target specific body parts and shoot off components to weaken enemies or to be able to pick off components that you can then use for crafting. So for instance, if you're fighting a specific enemy, maybe they have a laser beam on their back that they use to shoot at you. If you shoot that off, they can't use it against you, but if you pick it up, you can use it against them, which can, open up lots of different avenues for strategy and combat. And there are a bunch of different things you can do. You can craft traps that they can run into in combat. So things like bombs and tripwires. You can use stealth techniques to take enemies out stealthily, silently, things like that. The game is freaking gorgeous. I am constantly amazed when I'm exploring the world by how pretty it is. There's a robust...
Are you playing it on a Pro or are you playing it on a PlayStation 4?
I'm playing on a Pro, although I don't have a 4K TV, and I don't have HDR on my TV, so I don't have full advantage of all of the visual effects. But still, I get some advantage from running on a Pro. It's so pretty.
Yeah, I thought Zelda looked good, and then I saw Horizon, and I was like, oh dear God,
yeah.
And the art design is really cool. Like it's bright. I think that's the thing that I like when you say post-apocalyptic, you think like brown, muddy Fallout.
Yeah. But there's so much color design. I mean, the foliage, and there's a lot of foliage. Like there's a lot of foliage in this game.
Foliage. There's a lot of foliage.
A lot of roughage.
Yeah.
I can't escape Lisa, our little library.
No, it's super colorful, and just the art design is off the charts, and it all runs smoothly. I have not run into, I'm not a huge frame rate whore, but I haven't seen really a single skip or jump or tear at all. So
it's really stable.
Yeah. So, it's amazing that this game looks this good and runs this steady, and it's an open world game. And and then on top of all that, the story has been really good so far. I am digging Aloy as a character, the mystery behind her. They build the mystery behind her birth and her origin right from the get-go, and I'm still really looking forward to seeing where it goes, and the conclusion of her story has got me sort of at the edge of my seat. All the characters that she's met along the way have been interesting. The voice acting has been good. There's one little quibble I have. It's that the lip syncing isn't always 100% super awesome.
I saw that, yeah.
But it's not the worst that it could have been. I've seen some reactions online that have been like, I think, overreactions. It's not the worst thing ever. Sometimes it looks a little wonky, but overall it's been good. And in general, I think that the characters that I've seen have looked really good and pretty varied. I don't see, 5 different characters wearing the exact same clothing like you might see in Mass Effect or in Dragon Age, where like you happen across one character and then 5 steps later there's another character wearing the same clothing. So I'm like,
how embarrassing,
right? They went to the same store on the Citadel because it was Commander Shepard's favorite store,
I think the thing I heard about this game that made my ears perk up, 2 things in particular. The Giant Bomb guys said that the story actually has a beginning, middle, and end, and that you could make a sequel out of it, but it doesn't do like the tune in next week for Horizon Zero Dawn 2. Like it doesn't do the Deus Ex thing, which remind me to ask you about that in a second about Deus Ex, Caitlin, because I know you and I want to talk about Deus Ex briefly. But then the other thing was like, apparently it's The Witcher, except it plays great. And I was like, I'm in. Like, I'm totally in. Like,
yeah.
It's, like that sense of place and that sense of like open world discovery is really good.
Yes, actually, yeah, that's a very good point. I think that they've really done a good job creating a world that feels like a world, and creating a world that is populated by different cultures that feel like cultures that interact with each other but have their own sort of boundaries and feel grounded, but definitely feel like a real kind of believable world, much like The Witcher did. But I don't know, in some respects, it almost, as pretty as The Witcher was, I almost feel like this game works a little better. And for me personally, the fact that this game has a strong, independent female protagonist, as much as I love Geralt, I really am loving Aloy. She's got a lot of spunk to her.
Is she the Zelda that we wish we had in Breath of the Wild, where we were all really excited that it was going to be Zelda? Like,
Hey now.
Is she if Zelda was a girl?
Can you imagine?
Why can't Metroid jump? Like, and I think it's really cool because like they just threw this main character out of Aloy and they didn't make a big deal out of it. They were just like, our main character is a female. Okay, moving on. Like they didn't do the whole like Tomb Raider thing where they were like, yeah, we're gonna make you love her and want to protect her. And I'm like, guys, I know what you're trying to say, but it's really not coming across that well. Like, like you're trying too hard. And from the moment that they showed Horizon Zero Dawn, like it was like a record skip moment. Like the first time we saw it at E3, and it was like, holy crap! Like, where the hell did this thing come from? And then, oh god, it's the Guerrilla guys. Wait, this is the Killzone people.
Mm-hmm.
Huh, so they've actually had a lot of creativity and just no opportunity to actually use it for a long time. So I'm really excited. It seems like it did great sales wise, and for the most part critically it did very well. So, I am excited to see if that turns into a franchise. That sidebar I wanted to bring up though, how depressed are we, Caitlin, that it looks like we're not going to get another Deus Ex?
I am super depressed.
That's really, I mean, I can't attack Square Enix for it because they're going to get some Marvel money, and I get it.
That sucks, especially with how Mankind Divided ended.
Yeah.
That was the big part.
I did the one piece of DLC. I haven't done the new one yet, but I kind of liked their approach to having like a mini mission where like you got to upgrade your powers as you went along. Like that, I still think the core of Deus Ex was really good. It just ended.
Yeah.
You're just like, what? Like, that's a shame.
Well, who knows? Maybe in another 10 years.
Yeah, maybe when we reboot it, Warren Spector comes back and we do the reboot.
Oh, that'd be so good.
We do the Deus Ex. I got to be honest, I don't think we're going to get another Dishonored because those sales numbers weren't all that great. Like, I think Dishonored might be done. So Dishonored and Deus Ex both potentially going away in 1 year. That really sucks. Like,
and Prey's come back.
I think Prey looks great, but then again, I don't know how.
Really
I don't know how it's going to sell. Like I'm honestly surprised because usually you have that expectation that the second game is where they're going to make a ton of money because they've established the franchise and people are into it. But I think because Deus Ex, Dishonored 2, and to some extent Rise of the Tomb Raider were so damn similar to the previous games, I think a lot of people probably had the reaction I did, which was like, oh, been there, done that. Like, I've played that game before. I don't really need another one right now. I think we need to start being a little bit more careful of that in the industry. And I bring that up in reference to Horizon Zero Dawn. Like
Fallout 4.
Talk about a game where I got that one right? Like, that now people
Sorry,
hate on.
You were saying.
People hate on Fallout 4 now, but like I just worry like if they try to turn out a sequel too fast with Horizon Zero Dawn, like could they end up running into the same problem? It's like no, don't be afraid to try new things, And gamers also need
breathing room.
Yeah, and gamers also need to be willing to try new things. Like that's the other thing is like don't be so insulated that you only play one type of game. Rob, yes, I know how bad that sounds coming out of me. And I swear, hey, if they announce a Bloodborne 2, I will be pissed at E3. I don't want a Bloodborne 2. I say that now.
Where could they go with it?
What a coincidence.
Yeah, I say that now, but if they showed it and it looked good, I'd be like, squee. But I want a Metroid. God damn it! I made my avatar Samus on.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is it. It's time, guys.
It's time.
We got a great new system with all kinds of potential and a hungry audience for it.
I don't think I'd want a Prime, though. I kind of...
can't believe I'm saying it, but I want it to be the new JRPG system.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
They've already announced an SMT. And
Yeah.
Octopath Traveler looks really cool.
Doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I really love that sort of shoebox diorama style they've got going on.
I almost
Me
picked
too.
up I Am Setsuna for it, like just because it's on. I know. I don't think I'll like it.
Skip it.
It's all right. It's just
It's a good first shot, right?
some wasted potential there, but yeah.
Definitely
Hopefully,
a lot of wasted potential.
the question is SMT going to be like the SMT4 in Apocalypse, or are they just going to use the assets from Persona 5 and just be like, screw it?
I don't know, because that trailer shows the Odin redesign from Apocalypse, so I mean,
Right.
I'm hoping it's not just going to be like a HD Apocalypse port. I'm hoping it's going to be something new and fresh.
Oh, that
No,
would be-
I don't want that. Yeah.
You could see them just doing 4 and Apocalypse together as one game, though, right?
Oh man, what a way to celebrate the 25-year anniversary.
God, that would really suck. I've got Shin Megami Tensei 3. I've got Nocturne right on my desk right now because I was trying it out on my PS2 emulator, and I'm like, oh man, that game curb stomped me so hard.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very unforgiving game.
Yeah, I got pretty far. I want to say I got like 2/3 of the way through it, and then I was just like, They really did make demon summoning so much better in the latest entries, like being able to carry skills through like that. That was key for me, as not having to like sit there and try to fuse demons over and over again to get the right combinations. Like, did a really good job with that. So I guess we could lightly touch on Torment and then call it a day.
Yeah.
Torment Tides of Numenera.
Yeah. Oh man.
The game where you can talk yourself out of everything.
Which is kind of awesome, to be honest.
I think that's cool.
It's very much a game made for a specific type of role player, and some of the critique, or, well, I guess description of the game that I heard before it came out was that it's very much just like it's text. And I heard some people saying, "Oh, if I wanted to read that much text, I'd read a book." And it's like, well, what's wrong with? I mean, visual novels are a thing. Like, why can't we have a game that's really text heavy? That if that's what you want, that's great. I love reading. I mean, that's why I like RPGs so much. So, I will say that if I've been playing some Torment. I have 2 issues, and I feel bad jumping straight to issues without talking about the rest of the game. But the 2 issues are
I've roughed off on you, Derek. I'm sorry.
right. The 2 issues are, one, it runs like absolute shit on the PS4, even a PS4 Pro. It runs
they're working
so
on a patch.
badly. Yeah, which is why I'm waiting to play it and haven't played it more than I played it like 3 hours maybe. It runs horribly, like constant frame drops. It's glitchy. Like, no. I had a crash on me. Yeah, it's not good. And then the other issue is that it's just so, it's not, this is less of an issue. This is a subjective thing for me, but it is so dense that it's kind of intimidating when you first start it. It's not, because it does take place in the same universe as Planescape Torment, because this is a spiritual successor to that. It's intimidating for me, who never played Planescape Torment, to start this game and be like, okay, I get that this is a new story in an existing world, but I have no idea what's happening in this world. Like, I don't know any of this terminology, and it gets thrown at you very hard and fast. So there's still plenty of explanation for all of that. It's just, it is so dense that I almost balk at the idea of absorbing it. It's like, I don't know if I want to do this right now. Like, it's a big commitment for me to sit down and learn all of this. But that's no fault of the games.
Come prepared for, I've found.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing, though. It's just very heavy, and I think there's a certain type of player that they made this game for, and those people are eating it up, which is great. And I'm excited to dig into it more. It performs so badly on the PS4 that I was like, nah.
They announced that they are looking into that right now, though. I really want to play this game, and we talked a little bit on the pre-show that I need to either shit or get off the pot when it comes to CRPGs, because I have tried so many of them, and I've just had an issue with everyone. Divinity is way too hard for my taste, and I was not interested at all in that story. Wasteland 2 was way too fiddly, and I didn't want to screw around with that. And Robert, you were saying the controls on that on console were pretty bad.
Unbearable, absolutely unbearable. I should have bought that on PC.
Pillars, I liked it. I started it and I was getting into it, but something just didn't strike me. Tyranny, I started playing and then I got distracted with something, and I fell off of that. I really want to like these games, but I think what it comes down to is that I don't want to fiddle around with a whole lot of stuff. And it seems like Torment is really, like you were saying, it's almost visual novel-esque in that you're going around and talking to people. But apparently everybody seems to think that when the combat does start, it's kind of the worst of the whole bunch, like unbearable.
I mean, from what I've heard, I mean, outside of the tutorial, like you may not run into a battle for 8 or more hours.
Yeah.
And you know, that's one of the things I find exciting about this game. I mean, the CRPG is really trying to replicate the tabletop rule set, and I think combat is kind of like one of the more boring things that you can do in tabletop.
Robert, you and I need to fly out and we need to play some tabletop RPGs because
Hey,
all my buddies want to.
We might get our opportunity
Yeah, because all my buddies want to do is play combat in tabletop games, and I hate it. It's so boring to me. Like,
not adventurous at all.
no. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. Well, that was my thought, really.
But so you can avoid just about every combat scenario in this game, right? Just talking your way through it, and you get these points that you can use to kind of like buff up your ability to complete a task, right?
Right, because the game doesn't treat combat as a separate scenario so much as everything is a crisis, and it's a crisis that you can resolve either by bluffing, you can use your charisma, you can be stealthy, whatever it may be, and you have the 3 pools, sort of ability pools to take points out of and use those to like buff a specific action. So if you're you might also have passives depending on how you build your character for things like, I'm better at doing stuff that involve having deft hands, or I'm better at stuff at night just because. So those bonuses play into it as well, and so you can sort of just up the success rate of anything you try to do by using those points.
And you're playing it with a controller. How does that work? Is it pretty good?
It's okay. It's a little unwieldy, but I think that's just the nature of a CRPG on a controller, period. Mm-hmm. I've had similar issues like with Darkest Dungeon on PS4. I had a hard time getting used to that just because it's so menu dense and I wish that I could click stuff. This is another game that like Robert, I wish I was playing this on PC. Mm-hmm. But it works. I mean, it's not ideal. But
I think that's the other thing is when I'm playing a game at PC, if it's not a shooter, I tend to get like really cripped up like at my desk, and like then that kind of hurts me when I'm trying to like read a whole lot of text. Like when I'm playing Doom, like I'm right up against the computer, like mouse in hand, like really into it, but I can't find like a good relaxed position to play like one of these RPGs. So the idea of playing Torment with a controller is actually really appealing to me, to just kind of like sit back and read the text and like let that world wash over
as well.
I can appreciate that. Yeah, it's I would prefer PC controls just because of how clicky it is to get through all the menus and tab through your inventory and like allocate skill points and stuff. But yeah, being able to relax, especially with something that is so text intensive, for you to be able to sort of like sit down and take it all in and not have to constantly be up in your screen. I get what you mean. Mm-hmm. Torment is pretty cool. I think it's going to be a lot better after a patch, so I will wait for that and report again once I played it some more.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing with Final Fantasy 15, and I'm still.
Oh my god!
Yeah, you'll be waiting a while.
You want to talk about reception coming around? I find personally, anecdotally, once again, I'm kind of not boomeranging. What word am I looking for? It's not a 180, but I feel way less positively about FF15.
Really?
Yeah, I was pretty frustrated with it, right? In the first place, because I felt like the story was incredibly underdeveloped, and we've had extensive conversations on this podcast about how the women in that game are just written terribly. Oof. And there are so many things that just kind of go unsaid or could have been expounded upon, and I appreciate them having a linear experience in the second half of the game, but I just think they didn't do it well. Anyway, so yeah, I think it seems like the more I sit and let Final Fantasy 15 simmer in my brain, the more I'm like, God damn it, that game, I'm mad at it. What a letdown.
Come join the dark side, Derek. I've been there since it came out.
I just think it does such a good job for the first half, and then the second half is like bafflingly
I'm still in that first half, and I'm like, oh, I kind of like this. Like, I have issues with it. That one stealth sequence can just go to hell. That's the other thing. Like, and I got this playing Final Fantasy 15, and I got it a little bit playing Zelda. Like, can we stop with stealth sequences in games that are not stealth games?
Yeah,
that
please.
needs to happen.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
please.
not good.
Said it before. Why is that in Life is Strange?
Like
Ugh.
there's one part in Breath of the Wild, not to go back, but like you have to pick up this specific type of arrow around this enemy that is just like super strong, and the game really doesn't tell you should not fight this enemy. So what did I do? I tried to fight him and he killed me in one hit. So then like I had to do this extended stealth sequence. In his vision he could see me from like a mile and a half away, and I was like, guys, none of this is fun. Like this is, it's again one of those moments where like I think because developers want to add new experiences into games, it's like, oh well, we got to do this because it's a change of pace, and they just need to ask themselves, is it fun? Like,
Yeah.
because if it's not, that should probably tell you something. Derek, did you play Resident Evil 7 yet?
No. Well, I mean, like, for a hot second, but not really. No, I watched roommates play through most of it. So that was
You need
good.
to do that.
I've seen most of the game. I've
That's
seen
a good game.
all the relevant stuff. So.
That's a really good game, and I really hope that they expand on that, because that to me was so far like my 10-hour, like I had a lot of fun with this, and I'm glad I played it, and I'm done with it. Like, where, you know, Zelda's maybe a little long in the tooth, and I'm a little intimidated by Nier because of how long it's going to take, and then Persona 5 is going to come out, and that's just going to be the rest of my year. Like, you know, like literally because it's a school year. Like, it's too many games. There's too many games. It was nice to play something that I could finish in 10 hours.
I'm legit stressed about how many games are out on like.
I think
I'm playing concurrently.
the
It's just too much.
fall, at least for me, I was looking at the release schedule for the fall, and there isn't a whole lot I'm really interested in the fall. Like, Shadow of Mordor 2. Like, yeah.
Wait,
We'll see
really?
what gets announced after E3,
That's
huh?
getting a sequel?
Oh yeah, Shadow of War.
I mean, there's stuff all the way up through like July at the very least, but yeah, fall. I mean,
Yeah.
Mario Odyssey. And
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'll play that. I will play that.
I
But
would
like,
definitely get that.
Isn't Ys 8 coming out in the second half of the year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's some stuff already.
yeah, there is, and I think Robert's right. At E3, you know, we're getting to a point where the development, the marketing schedule on games is a lot shorter now. I mean, think about it. We only had 6 months of marketing for Resident Evil 7. We're only going to have 6 months of marketing for Shadow of War.
That's fine.
It's probably
Yeah,
how
no,
it should be.
I think it's totally great, and I'm excited about it. I like the fact that, like, you know, you see a trailer for a game and you're going to be playing it in 6 months. Like, that's really cool, and I really like that. But for the Shadow of War guys, can you just not make it Tolkien? Like, I would honestly play that game if it wasn't Lord of the Rings. It doesn't need to be Lord of the Rings. I thought that first game played fine, but like any other world,
They should make it Lord of the Flies.
Can I like wait? Okay, let's work this out. So I can like sneak up on Piggy and like slit his throat. Okay, like go with me on this. Oh yeah. No, just like any other world. Like, why not just make it a Dragon Age game, for God's sake? I don't know. Like, just make it something. Like, it doesn't, like, the fact that it's a world that has so been there, done that, and it's kind of sacrilegious. Like, don't do that. Like, make it something else. Just make it the Batman game that you all wish it was. Just murder Batman. Just Ben Affleck just killing people for 30 hours. Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Okay, I think we're all tired, right? I think we're done here. We're done here. I'm going to continue not playing Breath of the Wild for the day because I want to kind of lick my wounds and relax a little bit, and then try to get back into it. And I have to have it done by, what is it, April 4th? Is that Persona?
That's right.
Yeah.
Christ. Oh. All right. So thank you, everybody, for listening to Random Encounter. As always, please send us any emails. Derek, do we have any emails? Nope, didn't think so. Okay, so
No, we don't.
no, nobody loves us. So for Derek, Caitlin, and Robert, thanks for listening, and we will see you all later.
Till next time, see you in Hyrule.
Bye, Felicia.
Near, far, wherever you are.
Oh,
yeah.
you need to use that
There
one.
it is.
Oh,
There's
that's
the episode
stated.
title.
Yeah, that's no. Yeah. Oh,
See you on the horizon.
Uh-huh.
all right. I'm stopping this.
We're killing it. We're killing it.
Stopping this.